Hello, is she Abel here with the Horse Human Connection Matrix podcast. Today, I want to talk about release work with horses. So, first of all, what is release work? Release work is a type of body work. It could even be your chiropractor. It could be horse massage. It could be acupressure. It could be energy work. It's what we do when we see stuck places in our horse or we know our horse is in pain. And it's not only a way to help the horse feel better before riding, but it's a way to bond with your horse. And some extraordinary things may happen when you start to treat your horse this way. So there's a lineage that I know of. There's probably many of them. First, I want to say that Marie Soderberg has a video online that's free on YouTube under Horse Acupressure and Marie Soderberg. And she demonstrates for 45 minutes some excellent techniques. And she is a professional horse acupressurist and has been for a long time. There are other systems out there, some that charge quite a bit of money. Peggy Cummings was a student of Sally Swift. Most horse people who've studied riding know who Sally Swift is. And Peggy Cummings came up with a method called connected groundwork, where she runs through a series of different exercises that do releases on your horse, and they're all very, very gentle. And they're worthy. She had a student, Masterson, who works on the racetrack, and he came up with a much more involved method utilizing the bladder meridian, which is, I'm not going to pretend I know a whole lot about acupressure. I just know the little bits that I picked up. And this podcast isn't necessarily about acupressure, but it's about what to do before, what to look for during, and what the benefits can be. But of course, along the way, I'm going to need to talk about some of this stuff. So I want to reference these people because I'm also going to talk about systems versus intuition. So if you're a systems person and you know you're a systems person, definitely read up on it, look at YouTube videos before you head out there. But if you're someone who has a good feel, who wants to deepen your relationship with your horse, you may not need so much structure. You may be able to rely on the bond between you and your horse and your own intuition. Marie Soderberg, Peggy Cummings, Masterson, all have systems out there that are worthy. For my money, the Marie Soderberg is free. And it gave me more information than studying the other methods that I could use because I'm a very intuitive person. So how do you know when to use this, when you need it, or what to do first when you want to start? Well, the reasons I like these healing techniques is that they help me bond with my horses in several ways. When I introduce this work, my horses know that I'm listening. They know I care. It slows me down and thus allows me to step further into their world. These two reasons promote reciprocity from the horse. Now, maybe not right away, but some really magical things have sprung out of me doing this type of work with the horses. Most horses have tried communication with their captors. Yes, I said captors. Sometimes I use the analogy of slavery with horses or prisoners because they're not free. And they're usually better off if they're not free. And we have a history of having these working relationships with horses. And I'm not judging that, but I'm also going to call it what it is. So I think like most prisoners, initially, once the fear is gone of where they are, how they're held in, who these people are that may or may not take care of them, they begin to seek information. But also, like people, if you kept asking and asking and asking questions or trying to talk to someone, especially if you were a prisoner, and they ignored you, how long would you try? Yeah, you're not going to keep that up forever, and neither are they. So a lot of horses who are owned or kept by people who don't believe the horses can really communicate or talk to them, or just think they're more stupid, ignore this. They ignore all the times these horses have tried to communicate with us. And they communicate in so many different ways. You don't have to be an animal communicator, hear a voice in your head, or get a specific image in your mind that the horse is communicating to you. They will act things out. And if you've listened to my other podcasts, you know the story of Pi standing by the watering trough for 3 days because he was miserable being penned up with the 2 horses he was with, and he wanted out of there. There's so many ways that not just horses, cows, dogs, cats communicate things to us if we just slow down and pay attention. But they also give up if we don't respond. So if this has happened to you, if your horse has given up, starting to do release work with them is a way to get a fresh start. It might require a bit of patience. It might require a little bit of time before they actually believe that you want to listen and believe that you want to help in this way, but they will. How are you going to know if your horse needs release work? It's a really common and very useful practice in the horse world to brush our horses before we ride, to comb them, to pick out their hooves. And part of that is, of course, to remove the dirt and debris and hair before we put on a saddle or a saddle blanket, to prevent injury, make sure there's no burrs under there or anything. And part of it is to run our hands or a brush or both over the horse's body so that if there are tight spots, sensitive areas, somewhere that maybe they got kicked or scratched or bitten, that we find it. Maybe it needs treatment. Maybe we just need to be aware of it. But that's another reason for grooming our animals. So the release work is like taking grooming to a different level. And watching more carefully the expression on a horse's face and the signs that they may give during release work is different than what you'll look for during grooming. Of course, with grooming, you're going to either get the ears back and a tail swish and a look and a glare if something hurts. But with release work, the signs may be much, much subtler. They may be having their eyes closed and just blink ever so slightly. They may do the occipital head bob, which is a very slow movement from the back of the head behind the poll where the head just barely rocks back and forth. They may do huge yawns accompanied with those eye rolls. That's one of the biggest releases I've seen horses do. They may also swish their tail a little or a lot. And also farts, stopping, walking away, urinating, defecating are also all ways that horses can show release. Sometimes they'll also seek for something like a hand or putting their nose on the ground, and touching their nose releases pheromones and helps them do more releasing. I want to mention too that if you're doing this type of release work on your horse and you're not sure the pressure is right, you can ask them, or they may even volunteer the information by touching your hand at the pressure they would like to be touched. Yes, they can do that. Or they may even come up and put their nose on your body where it hurts on their body. I've had horses do this lots of times to me. They may also put their nose and begin using their lips and their nose to massage and touch parts of your body that are sore. And I highly suggest you allow this. All of those rules about this is my bubble, this is my space, don't touch me, that's bad manners, throw all that shit out the window. When you're doing this type of release work with your horse, it's like mutual grooming. It's like a massage. Be open. Be open for that stuff. So those are the types of releases that you may look for. Also, did I say chin quivering? They could be really small movements, and your eye will get better if you start slowing down, which is crucial to be able to pay attention to these nuances. You'll begin to see a whole lot more. So I also like to take my horse, and yes, I still use a round pen. It usually has some grass growing in it. It's not overused. But I like it because I can see a horse move. And my round pen has 15 or 16 panels, and it's actually not round, it's an oval, but whatever you have. You can use an arena, you can use your pasture, you can use a smaller part of your pasture, but get your horse moving. Watch them walk. See if you can get them to walk around you, not on a lunge line, not on a rope. That's why I like the round pen, because there's no pressure on their face. And as you watch the horse move, center yourself. Watch your breath. Let your eye fall over the animal as it moves. And I'm not talking about watching their beautiful mane or if they're tracking in their footfalls properly. What I'm talking about is watching their body move. Watch the biomechanics. Watch, are they stretched out? Are they gathering themselves? Are they collecting a little bit on their own? Are they even? Does it look like they're sore anywhere? Do the muscles move smoothly? These are the things that you need to train your eye for. Also, at a stand, some side flexes with the head can reveal quite a bit. Some very light touch to the poll may create quite a bit of release. And when you touch the horse, I need to talk about this a little bit. And I'm going to pull from some of the names that I mentioned earlier and what I've learned. So I have one mare, she's 30 years old, and she's in pain a lot. And she mostly doesn't want to be touched at all. But I can work 3 inches off of her. In fact, yesterday her back cracked working 3 inches off of her. Sometimes she's so sensitive, she's swishing at me and saying, back up more. I have done energy work on this horse from 5 feet away and had big yawns and releases from her. They are that sensitive. Their energy fields are that sensitive. And if you think about everything you know about horses, how they read your heart rate and your intention from 60 yards away, you know they're sensitive. So watching the horse in a round pen, beginning to apply some light touch. So the first touch is like a fried egg, a soft fried egg, where you just barely touch the yolk and you don't want to break it. The second touch is like a grape. So you can push into a grape and maybe push in, but not splat the grape. And the third one would be like pushing into a lemon that you're trying to like get it all ready to be juiced, where you're pushing in a little bit, like there's a little bit of pressure in your touch. And what I like to use are my first and second finger, my index finger, and my third finger. There are some times where I'll use my whole hand. And again, Marie Soderberg has excellent information on this in her YouTube video. And Masterson's method, working the bladder meridian, is a smooth, constant touch, very, very, very slow, all the way down. Soderberg uses like a 2-foot kind of hopping method most of the time until she finds a place that may need a little bit more kneading or some palming. So just like if you were giving your boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband or whomever a massage, you would experiment a little bit with different types of touch. The horse is going to be the same way. And if you're watching, they'll give you feedback. If you go too deep, they'll probably swish or move away. If you don't go deep enough, you may get no reactions and need to go through a second time. Although starting with the egg yolk and starting with the 2-inch increments is what I like right now. At this point, it's also helpful if you know where to touch on the horse. And I've mentioned the bladder meridian, so I can just roughly describe this, but starting in front of the ears about 2.5 inches and moving on the inside of the ears and then down either side of the spine all the way to the croup and then down the back of the legs about 1.5 inches from the spine on either side. You can imagine like 2 racing stripes going down the back of your horse, again beginning about 2 inches in front of the ears and ending down at the indentation of the back of their hooves where their heels are. That would be the bladder meridian. And you don't have to be exactly on it. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to know is that that's a good place to start. And don't try to do both sides at the same time. Start on one side, preferably the left. Do that side and do it slowly and take your time, and then do the right. There are some other little points that you may pick up glancing at some of Peggy Cummings' work in the front shoulder, and Marie Soderberg, again at that hollow at their back knee, on the back of their knee where they're at the back of their hock where those bones come together. There's a little hollow. If you just sort of pinch either side of it gently, that is a pain release spot. And again, just looking at your horse, the horse doesn't even need to be moving if your eye falls on a spot, or if the horse touches your body on a spot that would correspond to their body. Like if they're touching the left side of your shoulder, go to their left shoulder. If they're touching the bottom of your glute on the right side, go to that spot on the horse and try those. The horses are talking to you, whether you've been listening or not. I promise that they're trying to talk to you. So it helps to know where to begin this. But even if you never heard of a bladder meridian and you just slowly walked up to your horse and gently touched as I've described, your horse would start giving you some feedback and you'd get somewhere. That's what I mean, that anybody can do this. I think that that's a good method. But some of the things I wanted to talk about here are not just the touch, because you can get that information from one of these systems. What I really wanted to talk about is looking for the signs, watching the face closely, because I feel like there's not enough time spent on that in the systems that I've seen. And what I want people to know is that anybody can do this. Like after listening to this podcast, you can do this. Before listening to this podcast, you can do this. This is something that is so attainable. And people charge a lot of money for these trainings. People charge a lot of money to come do this on your horse for you. And in that case, you don't get the benefit of the bonding. You don't get your horse realizing that you are listening to them. And I can't tell you how huge that is. Well, my horses work on me too. And I know that might sound crazy. I posted a couple of YouTube videos. I hope to do some more filming very soon. But they work on people in the equinicity style. That's Equinicity Retreats in British Columbia, Liz Mitten-Ryan. I went to her retreat in 2016, and it changed my life. The case studies I did when I left there proved to me 20 times over. I've watched my horses work on probably close to 100 different people. And sometimes they're just meditating with them. They're just working in an energetic way, mostly on emotional issues. But the horses will get in there with the nitty-gritty too, especially Sipsy. She'll use her hooves on people. And you'll see that in the latest video if you care to watch it on my YouTube channel, which is capital HHCM_X. That's for the horse-human connection matrix. Yeah, if you don't have experience with this, if this is all new to you, don't fret, don't worry. All it takes is a little practice, a lot of patience, and slowing down. But I'll tell you something, that slowing down is good for everybody, whether you're around the horses or not. I want to also say to watch your own breath, to spend a few minutes standing with soft knees and soft hips, concentrating on how your breath fills your belly with every breath for a minute or two before you begin paying attention, before you begin moving your horse, before you begin touching your horse. There are also methods to bond with your horse, not necessarily doing the release work, but they begin with the release work, even round penning your horse in the state of mind, in this meditative state of mind, and focusing on their rhythm, not so much on their gait or what they're doing, but feeling their rhythm. Horses are rhythmic creatures. If you watch them in the wild, their footfalls will be syncopated. Even in your pasture, if you have more than one horse, their footfalls will often be syncopated. And if you focus on that when you're watching your horse move, asking your horse to move while you're grounded and your breath is calm and regular, you'll find that you can change their gait by changing the rhythm in your head when you're that connected. It's not a huge mystery. I know there are people that know way more about horses and horse training than I do that have been using this for centuries. But I feel like it's worth mentioning because not everybody's familiar with those traditions. If you get the opportunity, and there's more than one horse around, and there usually is, whether you're at a barn or they're your own horses or they're at your neighbor's house, watching more than one horse will help you to get accustomed to their movements. And while they're moving, if you find your eye keeps coming to one spot on the horse, even if it looks fine to you, even if the muscles seem like they're moving smoothly, even if the biomechanics seem in order, if your eye keeps falling on one particular muscular group or one 10 by 10 inch spot or one 1 by 1 inch spot on the horse, trust your intuition, trust your subconscious. Your subconscious has sucked something out that probably needs attention. And even if you just go over when this happens and hold your hand 3 to 5 inches away from that spot that caught your attention and watch your horse's face, I bet you 10 to 1 something happens. I bet you see a release. And if you go closer and touch with 2 fingers perpendicularly, I bet you'll get a big release. Because you know what? We all have intuition. We just haven't practiced. These micro movements register in your subconscious. These micro movements, you're seeing them even if you don't know you're seeing them. So trust yourselves. Experiment with these methods. Spend time breathing slowly with your animals. And create those bonds that make life magical. I hope you tune into some of those YouTube videos. And I love it when people share stuff with me. Thanks for listening.